We have in studio the police spokesman, that is Charles Owino, to respond to some of the questions and the development as pertains security ahead of the elections. First of all, ahead of what has happened today, why are there 8 officers who are trailing Raila Odinga, according to the allegations?
I don't think that is true. We have absolutely no reason to trail Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga. We have a responsibility to protect him. Remember, the law is very clear that if either any presidential candidate or his deputy loses his life on or before the date of elections, then we have to postpone the elections for very many days. It's not the first time Honorable Raila Odinga is running for the presidency of this country. I think it's the 4th time. And from reading from what Mheshimiwa Orengo is saying, I think he just wants to create curiosity so that they could get more security for Honorable Raila Odinga. I'm aware they had asked for more officers, but we gave them what we thought was sufficient.
Yes.
So what I would say is that if they think they need more security for Honorable Raila Odinga, it's just fair to ask for more, not to create animosity. I think he's safe, and I think we have a great responsibility as a service.
To set the record straight, his life is not in danger, no one is targeting him.
I want to believe so, unless our intelligence services come and tell us that somebody is tracking him, and I don't think that is true.
All right.
I can read a different intention. Mheshimiwa Orengo is a very intelligent man. I think he's trying to pull our legs.
All right.
Yes.
And you can assure that all the other presidential candidates have security teams with them as we speak?
Yes, we have given them security teams. The only problem is that most of them do not have capacity to keep the security officers. And that would maybe mean that next time the legislators would have to find out a way of coming up with legislation that would provide for security for presidential candidates. Because so far, we don't have a budget specifically to give them cars and maybe to pay for their guards. So that means that many a times, as much as we may supplement, they may also have to put in money to supplement their security. Many of them are not able.
Many of them, so not everyone has been able to...
No, they have been given security.
All right. Now let's move to the hotspots that at least the Nairobi police security head has been able to bring out as hotspots in some sensitive areas. First of all, what's the threshold or what criteria do you use to categorize a place as a hotspot?
You look at the possibility of violence erupting from a place, maybe because of competitiveness of those particular places. I want to give you an example of Ruaraka, where we have people from candidates from the same ethnic group running in different parties. But you look at them and you look at the situation as it is, you find that there's possibility of eruption of violence. You go to other places because you see elective positions have become very competitive. Remember, before we had MCAs, when we had councillors, the position of a councillor was not as competitive as the position of an MCA to date. Mm-hmm. Equally, the positions for governors have become very, very competitive because we have 2 levels of government. After the president, the next level of government is the county. And there's huge money playing around in counties, and there's competition for those positions and power. So when there's huge and high competition, then what happens is that many a times you may find that some people may resort to violence in trying to outwit the rest. And besides, so that is why you find that we are able to tell which area is volatile. And it is not volatile because of anything else. It's because of competitiveness. Because at least from the NASA side and the other areas that have been declared hotspots around the country, they say that you're deploying police officers there in their strongholds to intimidate their followers. I don't think this is so. We have, even during preliminaries, we had political parties requesting us to give them police officers. And if you come, for example, when you talk about opposition zones, take, for example, Luo Nyanza, there's very high competition for position of governorship. Because of some reasons, I may not want to get involved directly in politics and maybe argue out what is happening in Luo Nyanza. But I know there's very big competition between the independent candidates and the candidates for the preferred party there. And therefore, out of violence, you could see what has happened in a number of places in some of these areas. Right. So we are reacting to the possibility of violence and averting violence. We are not interested because, for example, some of these positions, you can't term them competitive out of the regions. Even if you go to to Central Province, even if you go to Rift Valley, definitely you know who is competing for what. And it's the same ethnic communities, so you cannot call it inter-ethnic. So we cannot say that we are taking more security to a certain place for purposes of advantaging another party. It's not true.
Let's talk about the strategy in terms of security and reinforcing the same in the hotspots. What can Kenyans expect, especially in those areas that have been named and the red flag raised? What can people expect? Officers, more boots on the ground. How soon?
Already we have officers on the ground. We cannot say we don't have officers on the ground. The only thing is that we watch these areas very carefully. And let me tell you, the whole country looks volatile. The whole country is very competitive in terms of individuals fighting for positions. Okay. So we are not sitting back saying that it is only in these particular places, but we are putting much emphasis on areas that violence looks much more obvious. And it is not about the presidential election results. It's about the MCA, it's about the governors, most likely in most of these areas. All right. So it is not as the same way that maybe we could have looked at it before in 2007, 2008 post-election violence. This is a little bit more complex in the sense that people are competing. There's more competition. Yes.
Right. Let me just interrupt this conversation on the election preparedness in terms of security and to something that has developed in the past few hours. Mandera leaders now want the security forces to come clean on the brutal murder and subsequent burial of 5 people whose mass grave was discovered by herders in Bambo, Mandera County. The leaders maintain that the deaths have all the hallmarks of extrajudicial killings carried out by the police hit squad. They were speaking after the burial of the 5 in Lafay constituency, Mandera County. Trevor Mbija reports.
This is the final resting place of the 5 people whose bodies were discovered in a shallow grave by herders in Bambo. The 5, 4 men and a woman, were reported missing by their relatives last week. Among the dead was an 82-year-old grandmother.
Mama mzee maka yake 80 wanafuruta wanaua nje hajui yoyote.
Witnesses say the male body had bullet wounds in the forehead and the other bodies appeared to have been strangled.
I would like to ask the president and those who have been charged with the security of this country to open an inquiry, a commission of inquiry into this matter, because it's a serious matter. It has created a lot of fear in the public everywhere within this constituency and within Mandera County.
The 5 were from Fino ward, but their bodies were found in Warankara ward, that's about 65 kilometers away. Relatives say their kin disappeared on various dates and they were in the process of looking for them despite several assurances by the police force of their safety.
People have deserted. The schools is almost closing and there are no residents in that town. When you fear that the same people who are supposed to protect your life and your property is unfortunate.
The residents claim mysterious disappearances of people who are later found dead and buried in shallow graves was not a new phenomenon. What makes it even worse, they say, is the lack of transparency from the security forces.
When the government are just picking the people and not taking to them to the justice, if the person is terrorist being found, that time you can do to him anything. But then when you see the person just is picked, and the other day you found him being buried in a bush, what do you feel?
Last Friday, the bodies of 2 other people were discovered buried at Border Point, one in Mandera East, after they were reported missing by their relatives. A security operation in Fino and other urban centers along the Mandera-Lafay-Elwak Road is currently underway. Trevor Mbija, NTV.
And everyone agrees that the threat of terrorism needs to be fought and addressed definitely immediately and by all means, but judicially so. Was the police involved in this incident where 5 were buried in, or found in a mass grave in Mandera?
First of all, it's important to understand that this is not the first time we are getting accusations from Mandera, especially on allegations that people have been killed and buried on shallow graves. Last time, you remember, we even had to take bulldozers and none was found. But this is a case where it is true. bodies were found. But if you look at it carefully, you are aware that Fino Lafay area, this is where we have lost a very large number of police officers on just a few weeks or a few months. So when somebody is talking about schools closing and people deserting, there has been much of insecurity on the part of police officers who have been responding to distress calls in these places. And many a times, as police officers move on the road, you find IEDs placed on the road and they get blown up. What we can say is that if you look at it, what happened yesterday is a report was made, yes, of bodies that were found. But they never allowed, first of all, the police to attend to these bodies. And they took the bodies away yesterday, kept them to a place of which we did not know, and later we learned it was in an hospital, and today in the morning buried them. These leaders are not ignorant. They are quite informed about cases of sudden death, that when a person dies in a circumstance that you think he has been killed, whether he has been killed by Al-Shabaab or killed by your suspicion claiming it is security agents, then there are procedures to it. But when you block the police from even coming to the scene, and then you talk about an inquiry, how are you going to carry out an inquest without procedure? Because you need to carry out a post-mortem.
Yes.
You need to record statements, especially from the time when they got lost. It is said they disappeared from home. Who picked them from home? But if you look at the way the leaders have behaved, and yet they are not ignorant, picked the bodies yesterday, kept them in a secretive place, and then today brought the bodies and denied police access and buried the bodies in secrecy. We look at it as, because look, an 80 years old lady, surely, even if you say somebody is a terrorist, why would you attack and kill an 80-year-old woman? So we take it that this is an area that has been invaded quite a lot by Al-Shabaab, and I think they are seeking for sympathy. Because of the destruction, because of the killing of the policemen, I think they are seeking for sympathy of the locals to portray the police to be bad, so that the communities can be hostile, the police can be pushed out of the place, or the people may disagree with the police, and they get away to come.
Granted,
we will not allow that.
Granted, that is a possibility, but another possibility would be that given the operation that has been going on and the security issues and developments there, then they would be right in their right place to suspect that there was foul play from the security agencies because of the attacks on the police themselves. So
what we can say is that we are not in Northeastern to attack the locals. We are in Northeastern to protect the locals. Police officers are taking risk every day on their lives, and we lose quite a number to protect the locals. We have no business whatsoever to attack the local people that we are supposed to protect. I can assure you that with time and after investigations, you'll find that this is work done by Al-Shabaab for purpose of creating animosity between police and the public, so that there can be some kind of division to give them leeway to get into the community.
Fair enough. Back to the preparation in terms of elections and the security. Are the police officers involved in any way or being recruited as election officials, as has been alleged?
That is not true, and we are challenging anybody, because the numbers of policemen are known. We are serialized, we have our numbers, everybody knows. So what we are saying, in case there's any police officer who has been recruited by IEBC, let us get to know whom it is, because police officers are aware you cannot go for 2 jobs unless we take you for secondment. So we don't have any police officers that have been recruited by IEBC. But remember, we have police officers who have retired, or police officers who resigned and left work. We cannot deny them opportunity in case they seek for employment from IEBC. So there must be a clear separation. Is it a serving police officer or somebody who had left work and is looking for a way to survive?
All right. And back to the hotspots, as you were explaining a bit earlier, as you finalize, can Kenyans expect in the next few weeks, couple of weeks heading up to the elections, more police presence, and in terms of just to be alert that there's nothing out of order in seeing a lot more boots on the ground?
We are up to the task, and we are training police officers. We are working together with IEBC, and currently we have trained at certain high levels, and now we are starting to train next week at every district level. We are also gazetting the extra special police officers from that will support us during elections, the forest officers, the KWS officers. We will gazette them as special police officers, about 31,000 of them, to add on to our numbers. Remember, elections does not stop general police work. We still have to protect our borders, we still have to undertake our normal duties, and work must continue as usual. And I just want to assure you that we are up to the task, and we ask for the public to cooperate. Get out, vote the person you want to vote so that we don't get into problems. Don't sleep at home, and then tomorrow, when the person you support loses, you start running up and down and saying, election has been stolen.
And the police
Every
service,
Kenyan, express your right, get out, vote, give us the best men and women.
and the police service in all its reinforcement and deployment is not taking any sides in this political.
We have no
activity.
business. We are a security agency.
All right.
We are there for all Kenyans.
Okay.
We are there for the sake of security and the unity of this country. We have no business. Whoever comes as president or MP or whatever, we take responsibility and we take care of them.
All right.
Yes.
Well, Charles Owino, police spokesman, thank you very much for your time. And all the
you.
best as you prepare for the elections in terms of security preparation.